Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. It is Friday, so we have a Khyber Shards Answers tonight, and we are joined by Colin, player of Pog, haver of beard.
That's what I want on my tombstone. I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm having so much fun playing this game that I'm really nervous about this KSA, to be honest, because I have to remember where we are.
I know it's so weird to be this far ahead. I think we've mentioned this, but we're trying to get a little more ahead because, as your viewers know, Casey's having a baby. And yes, we are super excited about that. And we want to make sure that we are ahead enough that Casey doesn't need to feel any pressure about recording when the baby comes, and take whatever time we need to. So we're trying to get a good sized backlog. So it's a little weird. We're used to being only a week or two ahead of you guys. And so to be 4, I think, episodes ahead of release is a strange, actually 5. I think it's 5 now.
We're 5 up?
Sensation. We're 5 ahead right now.
Oh, I am like Tom Holland at a press conference for a Marvel movie right now. I'm the wrong choice for this KSA, man. Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's awesome.
Bold strategy, DM.
Yep.
How are you?
Well,
how are you with where we're at release?
Right, at release. I'm good. I really liked the reveal in this episode with Mrs. Bright Doom. It was fun to super casually finally tell you her name, and to get to really drag out revealing what her job was. Like watching back, I forgot how well I slow played actually saying what she did in that conversation. And I'm really pleased, especially from being in the watch party, and seeing some of our viewers get just furiously angry that she wasn't saying what she did.
But they got the twofer. They got the job and the name.
Yep.
I already know what Pog's calling her from here on out. I'm very excited.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that too. So that was that was a lot of fun. The scene with the White Raven took a turn that I very much did not expect from you, and so I was just there. That was fun. And I'm also enjoying. I really liked one thing that we didn't get any questions about this part, but I really liked. I mean, admittedly, it's overshadowed by the craziness of the rest of the episode. But I really liked the beginning of this episode of Pog talking about his experiences with the Silver Flame, and the juxtaposition of that with Ezri's reaction to that, coming from his resistance to the calling he feels pretty constantly to go do the right and heroic and virtuous thing from the quarry spirit that indwells him, that he fervently resists and stubbornly ignores. And Pog's comparative, maybe not enthusiasm yet, but openness, to hearing a similar calling. That was really interesting to see that contrast between the characters, and I liked that as a character moment, not just because it was funny to make the jokes of whether Ezri was in a cult or not, but and the delightful way in which RA played that scene, but just because I liked the I'm enjoying the opening up of the Pog story, and his interest in heroism has always been there, and so being able to introduce the Silver Flame into Pog's life has been a fun way to explore that.
I loved playing that moment, and I loved it for the honesty that RA gave to us from Ezri, because one of my favorite things about playing opposite Ezri is the negativity that I get to play against, like being Captain Optimism versus Captain Pessimism over there, is really a fun thing to play. But for there to be that moment of there being a reason for this one, that this isn't Esri being negative. This is Esri having reason to be negative. That is very fun, and it challenged me to find the way to play off of, between wanting to learn, but also like, well, I want to learn everything, and it made it was a very fun moment for some subtle character growth for us to get to have there, which I loved sharing that moment. It was a lot of fun.
No, that was really, really cool. So we have some very general questions, but I want to start with a question about this moment we've been talking about with the White Raven, from Mia. So Mia asks, what was going through your mind during the whole scene with the White Raven? You looked like you went from wanting him to know you saved him, to wanting to taunt him, to not wanting your cohorts to taunt him into fighting you, to sarcastic irritation at his lack of gratitude, and it was all glorious. I felt like I was watching a masterclass in improv during that scene. How much of what you were relying on in the rest, how much of that were you relying on the rest of the crew to feed you the right prompts and put you in the position they did, and how much of it was a total surprise?
What a great question. Let's just go in order here. Wanting him to know you saved him, that was my thought. Guy's been blinded. Last he saw was in the middle of a fight. Maybe a lie could work here. That Pog doesn't do that very often. It's worked for Ari a whole bunch, and we're trying things. And he's not a good guy, so I can lie to him. It's okay. Right. Wanting to taunt him, not wanting, but let's be honest. Taunting has worked way more than it should for Pog, in general. See Fury's Edge, right? It has worked out mostly because at the level of simple communication that Pog has, people have understood. That's what got really messed up with the White Raven here, is he was thinking in calculus and Pog was talking with his gazentas. He just was trying to give basic communication. And so the sarcastic irritation was the start of fear of no, hang on, and you guys stop, because he's not thinking what I want him to be thinking. Like, the difference between spar and a duel is starting to dawn on Paul, and no, we can fight for fun and test each other, punching is fun, and if you get punched you get stronger, so maybe that, but you want me to not alive anymore is not fun, and I kind of hate that. It was a lot in a very short time, and it's also not very often that we see Pug's a pretty action oriented guy. We do things, we make some calls, but not ever really to go off and be alone for much much time. And so player wasn't waiting for any cues. There's a great thing after a year of playing with these people and with people that are so much smarter and quicker than me, that I can just kind of trust that cues are going to come, and I will be given something to play off of in those high dramatic moments. That I was just making a call because Pog saw an opening, and the consequences, in the watch party, Philip, you shared that gif of digging the hole deeper. And it was really fun to play that moment because that's twice in quick succession that Pog has had that, where words just keep getting him in. His ideas aren't executing right. Like,
right.
The brain thinks and the word talks aren't lining up. And what is happening here that's so wrong? And it's been a lot of fun, but there's all of it was a surprise, Mia. All of it was a surprise. And I think, Philip, it was kind of a surprise to you, not only in the action, but in the way that the consequences had to play.
Everything about the way that scene played out caught me off guard. I really expected the party to get involved in the scuffle, or to take active steps to stop it. I kind of initially thought they might come in on the side of Hallis because they've just had a conflict with the Emerald Claw. They know of the Emerald Claw as a villainous organization. Hallis is a lot, but
he's a dillweed. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but he hasn't seemed evil, and so I kind of expected you guys to come in on to protect him, or just to try and put an end to the fight. I wanted to use the scene to reveal Hallis as powerful in a way that either wasn't the case before or just hadn't been revealed before, and leave that a little bit ambiguous.
Either way.
And I wanted to do that. And I mean, obviously we have the dramatic irony of you guys know that Hallis was captured by the Emerald Claw and put on one of those, or captured by the Stormhammers and put on one of those weird ritual tables out in the jungle. And so I wanted to give a little hint of something's not quite right here to the characters and have them an excuse to wonder about Hallis. So and that worked out, but I didn't expect I was going to play it out myself. If I had, I would have written down some good descriptions of dueling instead of trying to panic describe it. I think fairly ineffectually.
I thought it was
and
great.
Well, I'm glad. But yeah, and then your thing, you can just see in the episode that I have no idea what you're doing. Like that is just, I'm just wait, okay. And the idea is so good, and it just, the moment Pog starts going into you just got beat real bad, I just knew immediately, okay, well, that concludes this. This guy's entire identity is built around I'm better than everyone around me with a sword. And
I have
so that was, yeah. So I was caught entirely off guard by that scene, but I loved it. It was delightful. And I think it was a very interesting character scene. And I'm not quite sure what the consequences of it are vis-a-vis the White Raven, because getting beaten real bad, real publicly, and you refusing to let him take out his anger about that on you, is important to that character. And I think it'll be an interesting thing to play with.
I'm in danger.
True.
It's so bad for me. Oh man.
So that was but I enjoyed playing that scene.
Speaking of that episode and some of the information revealed, we have a question here from Laura about the Mrs. Brightdoom revelations. So what would the houses do if Donabella manifested a true mark and they found out about it, or if they knew about her aberrant mark? This is a great question because new to the lore guy here.
So if they found out about her aberrant mark, it would depend. Now, Thora is a known entity to them. Thora currently has at least some kind of cover from her connection to Lady Selshadra, one of the Stormlords. And so there's a degree to which the houses would not be able to move directly against Thora. Donabella, So just as an aberrant, if they just found out about one of the kids having an aberrant mark, they were just to learn about the existence of Pip. This is not, they're not the kind of mustache twirling evil that they're going to like start hunting Pip down and murder him as a child. Like it's not quite that. It's not quite that. They'd certainly view Pip as a danger. And if something like the Black Wheel program were still around, because of course that was totally shut down after the incident, Pip would be high on their list for something like, you know, let's see if we can go get that kid and weaponize him. But they're not, as much as they would like aberrant marks to cease to be, it's not like high on the priority of most members of the dragon marked houses to murder all aberrants. That's just not, that's not super high on the agenda. Some of them, yes, but not most of them. So if House Vatalis specifically found out that Donabella had an aberrant mark, the biggest problem would be the fact that Donabella is the daughter of a member of the house. And so there would be real consequences for Arabella if Donabella's aberrant mark were discovered. It would, at minimum, mean a loss of her job and protected status and any perks that have gone along with her continuing to work for the house after the death of her husband. At worst, it would put Donabella at exposure to being captured or experimented on or recruited into some sort of, you know, militant organization like the Black Wheel Company. It would put her, because they would view it as we have access to her in a way that we don't to others. So it would be dangerous, mostly given who her family is, that she has an aberrant mark. If she developed a true mark, there'd be enormous pressure to get her into the house formally, and for her to have a career with the house. So the thing is, that sounds kind of benign, and honestly, it for a lot of people, it kind of is. There's a reason that you can easily play a character with a true mark in an Eberron game. The houses are not manifestly black and white evil. And House Vatalis does some crazy shady things with mage breeding, but it's also true that there's a whole part of House Vatalis where the only thing they do is they raise and train griffins. Just regular griffins. They just raise and train griffins.
To go to there.
Right. To be mounts, and to be trained animals that they then sell. They're a corporate pet dealership. But and that's you know, there's almost certainly lots of problems that go along with that in the way that animals might be raised. But you know, Donabella might get some education, get training with the Handlers Guild, use to learn her mark well, and go spend the rest of her life happily raising and training griffins or some other useful but magical animal. So that it might be nothing. If she didn't want to do that, she could choose simply not to do that. That's also an option. You can play a character, and there are characters that are they're referred to in one of the books, I think, as orphans. They're people who have cut ties with the house. You can also be kicked out of the house for misbehavior on a grand scale, but you can choose not to be a part of the house, and you are, you know, the houses don't have any ability to like kidnap you and force you into the house. However, what they would do is they would watch out for you using your mark in any sort of way that competed with what they do. So if Donabella didn't own the house and then she went and opened an animal shelter, they would have a problem with that. And they would do things to make sure that it failed, or that it became difficult for her to operate until she shut down. If she was perfectly happy to go about her life and not use her mark in any way that competed with House Vatalis's business, then yeah, they'd probably just leave her alone. But there would be a lot of pressure on her to join the house. Some of the houses are also a little more inclined towards being nefarious than others. By the way they're written in the source books, House Vatalis is kind of a family thing. So it's a little bit I don't know, it feels a little mafia like, in that if you're in and you're really well taken care of. There's a reason Arabella has a job with House Fatalis. She doesn't have a mark. Her last name's not De Vatalis, or wasn't. Her husband had the mark, and he married someone without the mark, which brought her into the house. Then he died, and the house still takes care of her by making sure she has a job. It's very likely that house is provided by House Fatalis. Like, they're seeing to her needs because they take care of their own. That's House Fatalis's thing. So some of the houses can be great, but again, like a mafia thing, if you're out, you're not all the way out ever. So, if Donabella had manifested a true mark, there would be enormous pressure on her and on her mom to get her involved in the house with some training and some education, and she could have a perfectly brilliant career. She'd probably eventually have to decide whether she's okay knowing that the house also does the weird experimental mage breeding nonsense, and that's where it would get morally complex.
Doubtful she'd be cool with that.
Yeah. So it comes with strings. There's a lot of benefit from being in the house, but it's a little like living in a company town. There's a lot of benefits and a lot of strings that come with that, and you're going to be expected to do what you do exclusively for the benefits of the mark. With House Fatalis, that's not always very nefarious, but in other cases it can. I mean, we've seen Ari explain his backstory. Ari's backstory is entirely as a perfect example of this. Ari's parents were badly injured. There were a couple of House Jurasco healers present, and because they weren't paying customers, they weren't allowed to help them, and they let them die because they weren't paying customers. Because if you have the mark of healing and you go around just healing people whenever, cuts into the bottom line of House Jurasco. And so being a part of the houses in certain circumstances and in certain houses can be really, really simple and benign. But in some of them, you're going to have to deal with some, at the very least, ethically shady things, if not outright unethical. They're megacorps from a cyberpunk perspective.
Right.
And House Fatalis makes designer animal companions. That doesn't necessarily mean they're harming the animals. It just means they're designing them. They're guiding their development to be the way they want them to be. Griffin by itself is a really dangerous and wild animal. House Fatalis raises them to be a little more docile and pliable. So, yeah, nothing inherently bad. But if Donabella and Arabella had been unwilling for Donabella to be a part of the house after she manifested her mark, their lives would have gotten more difficult. The house would have cut them off from some of the benefits that they have, and potentially continued to make their lives difficult. And if Donabella had manifested a particularly powerful mark, the house might go so far as to do something like kind of manipulate circumstances to where all other opportunities seem to disappear in order to get her in. So they're not going to kidnap her. They're not going to murder anybody over it, but they'll use their influence. They'll swing around their influence in order to get her in by whatever means remain profitable. You know, there's an upper limit to how hard they're going to work on this, but there'd be a lot of pressure for her to do that. So that's more or less it. The houses are not just pure evil, but they aren't squeamish about. They are entirely profit driven. They're not worried about the ethics of what they do very much. So.
Rough.
Yeah.
Oh, dangerous games we play.
Indeed. Laura says, if I'm very responsible with my sharp tools and put them all away where he can't get at them, then can I adopt Pip?
I just simply wouldn't recommend it, to be honest. This is going to be a very intense whirlwind 8 hours. I can't guarantee he's going to be there at the end of 8 hours, and most of your stuff probably won't be either. I mean, you're welcome to try. you, the sharp tools being put up is mostly because I imagine you like your furniture.
Right.
I don't. Pip is not a person who's going to hurt you with them, and probably not clumsy enough to hurt himself, but still also the kind of kid who would really enjoy seeing how your leather working tools work on a leather couch. Like,
yeah,
if
he's
he
working
can
leather.
make it.
Come on.
Hey, he wants to see if he can make a design on something that's already been stuffed. So it's not going to end well for you, but he's going to have fun learning.
All right, and we got a couple of very broad questions. One from Nathan Stiller. What's your favorite thing about TTRPGs in comparison to video games, presumably video game RPGs?
It's a really good question. Having said before that's where most of my RPG experience is. And I don't want to discount the question, Nathan, but I may not be fully equipped to answer yet, but I will give you what my answer is. And it's with the caveat that I have a very generous GM. And so I like the fact that if I think it in this game at this table, I can probably do it. Like, I was not denied the opportunity to charge in and try to shoulder charge and carry away the White Raven. I was given the opportunity, the dice worked, and he rolled with it. And in a video game, you have those crazy thoughts that always first arrive when you go, hey, I wonder if I take fall damage. And then you learn the restrictions and you live within the game. And playing in a Philip game, I mean, how many times have you heard him say, awesome, I love that, let's try. I mean, it started with going, hey, can I just like swing down and try to grab Dane from the side of the ship in our escape in episode 0 when he goes, yeah, he can for sure. And in a video game, that's a quick time event that doesn't let me make a choice to do anything except escape. And so the freedom at this table with this GM and with a generous GM that I know exists out in the world, the ability to go, yeah, why not try it? Like I love that so much. It's addicting, to be honest. It's hard to play video games and return to the restriction of like, I mean, but I want to try.
Right.
Like why can't I give it a shot? I have the physical ability to perform an action. Why can't I try it right now? To return to a more structured narrative is a challenge, and that's why I feel like I don't know if I'm right to answer, because it's my favorite thing about a PTTRPG, Philip tabletop role playing game is that freedom. So
yeah,
that's my answer there.
Cool. And Shelby asks, what is your favorite TTRPG and what is your favorite video game? Simple question.
Is it? My two TTRPGs that I have played are Blades in the Dark, which I've kind of played because, as we've discussed, I ran a game which was kind of a homebrew freestyle adaptation. And that was super fun because I got to do GMing for the first time, which was my second time at a table. And it's a really fun system. And it's a system that feels created for homebrewing. Like so many things that you can just go, I want to take this and adapt that in this direction. So I had a blast with Blades in the Dark, but with my limited knowledge at this point, I love playing D&D. I'm having a blast with this. It's so fun, and I just you know what? We're going to just say here, it hasn't really happened yet, but now that Pog has multi-classed, it's so fun to get to see the different ways that I'm able to grow my Pog. You know, like you create the character and you see the chart of options ahead of you. And I'm sure this isn't unique to me. You see the point where you go, I don't really care about that one. And the next one will be cool, but the one after that really doesn't apply to me. And then you go, oh, but I could like dip a toe over here.
Yeah.
And now that I've got to this point on this one, I could get to here, which would be kind of cool. And it's, I'm having a blast. I'm having a blast. So I do, however, look forward to getting to explore more systems. I mean, I'm in this thing now. I'm not,
right.
You know, I'm not done exploring after this campaign. That's for sure. So I'm excited to continue to be exposed to more. What about you? What's your favorite TTRPG?
So I collect systems. I own more TTRPG rule books than I have played, because I will see one and say, "Ooh, that's cool." And my tendency is to read one, get excited, and then discover one specific mechanic I really like and try to steal that and use it in my home games. And so my games tend to have little bits of different things from lots of different rule books. The systems that I actively play right now, I think my favorite is probably the One Ring, which is the Middle Earth one that I run. Partly just from my affection for the setting, but partly because just from a design standpoint, this is a game that was designed to do one thing, and that was to represent a story told in Tolkien's Middle Earth. It doesn't do anything else. If you tried to strip away the genre from this and just make it a mechanic, it would only work if you're trying to tell a Tolkien-esque story in some other setting. Like, you know, if you wanted to use it to tell a Norse saga with a strong moral component, or you wanted to tell it to do something in Arthurian Britain, you might be able to tweak it into that, but it's very much built to tell stories in Middle Earth. And it just so elegantly does that with relatively simple rules that I feel that that's just a brilliant scheme of design. I like D&D. I play D&D more than I play anything else because it's the thing that's so available and that everybody knows about. But I think the One Ring is probably just the best designed RPG that I play, and I love doing it. And the stories that me and my friends tell in it when we're playing are really, really fun for me. So,
okay, fine, I'll try it.
Plus, in my current One Ring game, my daughter's playing in the campaign, and that's really fun.
Hey, that's awesome.
It is. And she's a bloodthirsty little murder hobo who's having a hard time with the morality system.
Why does that make so much sense as your daughter's character? Why do I absolutely buy this?
How about your favorite video game?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like video games. That's a hard question.
Yeah.
It's a fair one, but it's a hard one to nail down. I have played a lot of games and a lot of games that have meant a lot to me. Sentimental reasons. They arrived to me at the right time. They really spoke to me in their message. You know, you and I put hundreds of hours into Destiny, and
yeah,
that was a remarkable experience. Game's not on my radar today, but it definitely was my favorite game at the time. So if I had to say franchise, which is probably the most I can narrow it down to, it's gonna be that guy. It's gonna be Halo,
yeah.
Because since high school. Yes, I'm old. Playing Halo CE on the original Xbox. I mean, Halo has been instrumental in all of my friendships. You know, I have got some amazing times spent having either meaningful conversation or meaningful time wasting with a lot of my friends. And if you look at my roster of lasting friendships from college to now, they're all people that I played video games with, and Halo was that game for a large part. Um, as much as I love playing through Cyberpunk or Mass Effect was great. The Walking Dead series was incredible. I love those single player campaigns. It's the collaborative hanging out, spending time, and so Bungie's Halo and then Bungie's Destiny 2 for us. Those are important series for me in my life. So what about you? You got a favorite?
I've definitely adapted and run a couple of sessions of Destiny at the tabletop.
No kidding.
Yeah, as an RPG setting. It's such a strong RPG setting.
100%. Yeah. Man, there's a part of me that wants so badly to get back into it.
I know.
And then the other half of my brain is like, you are so far behind.
I was going to say, who has the time?
So far behind.
For me, I'm going to have to answer this. In terms of, I have the most fun playing this when I get to play it, it's got to be the Borderlands series. And again, I think for a lot of the same reasons, it's such a social game for me. I don't play Borderlands alone. I haven't played any of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands because I haven't had the opportunity to sit down with you and play it. And that's like, why would I play it by myself? What would be the fun of that? This is, this is something that me and Colin or me and Eric or me and Brad do. And that's I think the big part for me. If we're talking about the game I have played the most, it's probably maybe the Age of Empire series or the Total War series or the Paradox Crusader Kings games. That kind of historical strategy game is very, very potent with me. The Total War franchise is probably my favorite video game franchise. Crusader Kings and Age of Empires probably competing for second. I'm a history nerd and I play those games. I role play those games. Like I play those games as stories. And since I was in middle school, I was keeping track of, like, I was playing through quick match campaigns, like series of quick match games that I was designing as a story, and
that's awesome.
Keeping track of what happened in the story to sort of chronicle the tale of this hero that I had created. And so, it's telling a big epic story like that is a lot of fun for me. And so I like that in a game. So that's, I've cheated. I've given you more than one answer, but it's my show. I can do what I want.
Fair enough. We've got the last one there from Emily, who asked about Pip's favorite classmate.
Mm-hmm.
Nope.
No.
Pip doesn't have a favorite. And I promise that's not a cop-out answer. There is definitely an ease of conversation with some of them more than the others. But based on what Pip has gone through recently, he's super stoked to have people to live with. And
that's cool.
He's just it's the joy of having someone to argue with, mm-hmm. and to then sit down and eat next to. I'm sure there will be. That naturally happens in the social structure. But right now, Pip is just super stoked to have a room with a person in it that he can talk to until they fall asleep, and people to have breakfast next to. That's not gotten old for Pip. It's only been a short while. So yeah. Not yet.
Awesome. Well, that is all of our questions for this week. If you'd like to submit questions, you can do so in comments on our videos or on our Discord, the link to which you will find down in the description, along with all of our social media, as well as a link to Colin's Twitch, where he is sorry BTR. The O is a 0. New episodes of Khyber Shards drop every Monday. New Khyber Shards answers every Friday. And until next time, thanks for rolling with us.